All right. Ant Walker here with Sherdog.com. I am joined by one of the most beloved and most respected men in all of combat sports. It is an honor and a privilege to share some time with Burt Watson, the babysitter to the stars. Burt, how are you doing today, my man?
Man, I'm trying to make it, baby. How about yourself, bro?
I'm pretty good, man. Definitely happy that you're taking time out of your evening to join me here for an exclusive sit down with Sherdog.com. So now we're going to get right into the reason why you're doing so much media right now. And that's because you are now in the promoter's chair officially. Burt Watson, We Rollin' MMA, is
Yep.
debuting in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks, a couple of days, baby. The fight's actually June 15th at the Hard Rock Event Center at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it is actually this is I mean, right now I've done approximately 360 fights. And that may not seem like a big number, but over my entire career between boxing and MMA, and I've always pulled that plow for everybody else, baby. And this is the first time that I'm pulling the plow for myself. And that's old school for you, bro.
Yeah, you've been around for quite some time in the game of getting paid to punch people in the face. So
Yeah.
uh, you've seen a lot of incredible things, and you've been backstage at a gazillion different events, and just want to know from your perspective now, being the head of a promotion, are you learning new things? Are you seeing things differently that you've seen before?
Well, I've got a little more control over the things that I'm doing and a little things that go on. But I had an in-depth experience and an in-depth look at the world behind the scenes of a promotion, of what it took to actually make a promotion have legs and kind of go on from an operational standpoint, from a behind the scenes, from the dressing room, the fighters, and so forth. I've always been a part of that. So, if there was a situation that was kind of a speed bump within my operational procedures, I was always able to direct that to someone else that made a decision, and you bring it back to me when it's fixed or when it's done, and then I'll put it in my operation, and I'll go ahead and make it happen. Now it's a little different because it all falls on my shoulder, and it all falls on me to make decisions, to put the right people around me, to have the right pieces of the puzzle in place. And quite frankly, it's I'm at a point now, Anthony, where you know life is kind of like history. History has a way of making you a part of it without you asking. You just become a part of history. It just makes it happen for you. And I can honestly tell you, at this stage of my career and where I am right now, promoting was the absolute last thing on my mind. But doing something with my name on it, or doing something that would extend my longevity in this sport and in my career was something or a niche I was looking for. Because when I left the UFC, uh, I was on a 14, almost 15-year run nonstop, and I was actually in a fight. And when you're in a fight, you don't know what's going on till the bell rings. When the bell rings, it stops the fight. Then you realize you're in a fight, or you realize you got to pick it up. Because are we on PG here?
We're
Okay, okay,
PG-13ish.
okay, okay. I'll keep it undertone, Bert. Okay, but you got to pick it up a little bit and kind of go on. So at this point, I didn't really have any plans or thoughts of promoting because number one, I always found a way to stay on the fence. I was always on the fence. I never went to the left. I never went to the right. And I inadvertently, got accepted and became a part of what I would say is, the fighters made me a part of their fraternity. They trusted me. They had a comfort level in me and the things that I brought to the table and the things that I did. And I kept that comfort level and I kept that sense of sincerity because I stayed on the fence. I knew when to get off, when to go to the left, or when to go to the right, because I know what they needed, and I kind of knew what to give it to them. So promoting was always off the fence for me, because you either had to stay to the left or you had to go to the right, and when you went to the right, you had to go to the left because you know you had to keep the right going. So it was never one of those things, but this all just happened to fall in place for me. I had a relationship with the Hard Rock, not only in Fort Lauderdale, but also in Atlantic City and other venues that I've done events in. I've had a relationship with, and I did a show there last year, and this year came back, and normally they kind of circle back around and kind of look and see, well, in our boxing or our combat sports space, we did this, and so I got a phone call as to was there any thoughts of any possibility for this coming year. And at that point it was, well, not really, but what are you guys going to do with the date? They were going to put that date back in the pen. They were going to give that date to somebody else. So at that point I said, you know what, I'll take it. I'll make something happen. Just like that. It took them a minute, and he said, okay, you got that date. And I kind of looked through the schedule. I kind of looked to see exactly what was going on with the UFC, what was going on with Bellator, or what was going on with PFL. Because I also knew I was getting in another lane, but I didn't want to have or create a situation that ran up against maybe one of the biggest fights of the year for the UFC or Bellator or something like that. And boom, it fell right in on the day before Father's Day. And I said, I'll take that date. And that's kind of how that fell about. And I happen to know from my last experience, I know from experience that when you promote, you need to have three things in place, baby. One, you need a venue. Two, you need sponsors. And three, you need to have some sort of television or streaming situation in place to be successful. I knew that. I had a venue. I had people around me to possibly go get sponsors. And I needed now what I thought was a good matchmaker. Somebody that was gonna create a situation for me in an area that I was not totally familiar with, but was not unfamiliar with and hadn't had at least a little experience there before. And I found that in the matchmaker I'm using now, Antonio Santiago, who is very well connected in that area, knows a lot of the fighters in that area and that whole area, and reached out to him and with him and other people around me, and I found some sponsors and I found some supporters and some partners, and we put all that together, baby, and boom. Here we are, June 15th, which is this Saturday. We've come a long way, baby.
So I know you're, like you say, you're in the middle of it. So it's kind of hard to step on the outside and take a look at your hard work and see it all come to fruition. But are you thinking ahead at all? Or are you thinking about we rolling MMA 2 yet? Or are you just trying to get through this one and see what happens?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to get through this one successfully and have a successful night. And I'm more worried about bringing people into the arena than I am anything else. To be honest with you, if you would ask me the one thing that has probably given me a second thought, it would be that. But other than that, I do know that event night, I'm not gonna be able to spend as much time in the dressing room as I'm used to spending. I know that because it's like Tupac said, all eyes on me. I'm gonna have to do the whole room all night long. I'm gonna have to keep my eyes on everything. What's going on inside the cage, what's going on outside the cage, how it's done operationally, how everybody's performing. I have to keep an eye on that because I'm responsible for that. So it's going to pull me away from the dressing rooms. And you know what? I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. The juices are starting to flow a little bit. because I'm getting closer. And you know what? I'm in round 2 of a 10-round fight right now, and there is no stopping. Okay, I am not tapping out. I am not going to submit. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish this. And I've always told the fighters, never, ever, ever leave it to the judges, baby. You leave it to the judges, they're going to make you cry. I am not going to leave it to the judges. I'm going to see this thing. And I got to tell you something. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you, and this is absolutely in all of my, well, I have to think about it because everything now is on tape and on paper and on film, and they got pictures. But I don't think I've ever done an interview without my hat, ever.
And see, that's definitely one thing I wanted to acknowledge, because right now we're making history. Right now, this is a hatless Burt Watson who's opening up and explaining about everything. You got a nice hat too to display your promotional name. So for you to take the hat off in service of Sherdog.com is much appreciated, sir.
Hey, well, I'll tell you. I mean, it kind of took away from. If I had the hat on, it would have done this, So it was about a lighting thing and all that, and I had to give up my beauty for professionalism. But I've always been a fan of Sherdog, and I've always respected what you guys did in your work, and how you supported the industry, and how you told it like it was, So I'm just as honored to be here and be on with you as as you guys are having me. I'm just as honored, and to be able to talk about my event this weekend. We got one heck of a card going on, man. We have put together one heck of a card. We've got 12 fights. I think I've never actually seen a 10-round jiu-jitsu combat bout before. And it's one round, 10 minutes. And we got one. And I've got Enrico Coco against the Colombian warrior Danny Chavez. And this will be my first time seeing that. And that's an extra added event that we've got on with our 11 other MMA fights. Our main event, we got No Way Jose Caceres, who's the brother of Alex Caceres, who is Bruce Leroy, UFC, who I raised from a pup. Okay, and I am now working with his brother. He's taking on Mike Lilly, who stepped up and took this fight about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, when the original guy that was in, Fred Moncayo, had a meniscus tear in his right knee. So we had a replacement. Mike Lilly stepped up. We got Oliver Muradon fighting Sean Brown, which is a good fight. And I'm reading from my paper here. Vasquez Cruz against Edwin the Emperor Saria. So we've got some good fights on this card, and I'm excited about it. I don't know how I'm gonna handle not being backstage all night long, yelling "We rolling." I haven't figured that one out yet, but you know what? I'll figure it out. I might scare half of the people in the arena yelling that from cage side. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it.
So Burt, I definitely wanted to ask you about that, because you have been such an instrumental part of just making the little things happen to put the whole event together for the UFC for so long. Yeah. And now are you having trouble, just from a sense of your own peace of mind, delegating some of these tasks to other people that you normally would have handled yourself?
Well, it's you have a little bit of a problem delegating if you don't delegate properly or teach people properly how to do that. I've got a couple of people who have been around me over the years that are actually coming in to work with me, along with the crew in the back. So I don't have a complete, total crew of strangers working the back of the house. But I feel very confident when I put in place to teach, or I'm put in place to actually create a situation. And I created everything I did for the last 25 years, from boxing to MMA. I was blessed to have worked with people, even starting back with Don King, up to Dana White. Not that I'm comparing the two people, but just within that whole scope of, I've never had a situation where someone gave me a job to do and then tried to tell me how to do it. They always left it up to me to just get the job done. So I was able to create how I did it, and I was able to bring all the people around me along that journey and teach them how I did it, exactly how I did it. But I always did it one way. There's only one way to get it done, and that is getting it done. So that's kind of how I did
it. Burt, definitely want to ask you a couple things, man, because I know you are still following all the happenings in the UFC. You're following boxing. You're following it all. You are hardcore as hardcore can get when it comes to combat sports. So got to get your thoughts on some fights that you might be looking forward to in the near future. Boxing, UFC, Bellator, anything. What fights are you really looking forward to that are on the calendar right now?
Well, you know what? I'll start with boxing because I've seen a growth of boxing, and that was always my first sport. And the one thing that happened in boxing is that sometimes promoters had a way of riding a racehorse till it turned into a mule. And they did that with a lot of guys, and it just kind of went on and went on. It became a cycle. And, at that point, it didn't give up and coming talent a chance to express itself or to get on the stage. And then when MMA came along and Dana White, the one thing that they did that showed me that they had legs was that they gave everybody a shot at the same time, in the same way, on the same stage, at the same platform. Regardless, you came in, you got a shot on the same platform. So it was amazing because when you went to an MMA event, if you had 12 fights, you knew everybody on that card. Everybody. In boxing, it was a little different. You went to a fight with 10 fights, you may have known the main event and maybe the co-main event, and all the family members knew everybody else. But I see a little difference going on, and everybody just saw the last fight with Ruiz, and Joshua, and you got Deontay Wilder and Triple G, and I see a lot of things happening in boxing. In MMA, it's a little funny for me because I see all these young guys coming up, and it's unbelievable that I see just about everybody that I've seen for the last 14 years that I started with as kids with eyes this big that are still at a high level, that are still performing. I just sat and watched Donald Cerrone this past, and Anthony Ferguson, who I've seen. Tony Ferguson, I apologize, but Tony is Anthony, right? Same thing.
Yeah, the same thing. Some people call me Tony. Yeah.
Okay, but I see that, and I saw Ross Pearson not too long ago, because when the UFC came to Philadelphia about 2.5, 3 months ago, they invited me, which was, it was pretty surreal that I went. I didn't go to the weigh-in, but I went the night before the basketball game and got to see everybody that I had worked with and had taught over the years. And I went to the fight, and actually, first time I'd ever attended a fight in my 15-year career. First time ever that I actually sat and watched more than one round as a fan. And, it was exciting. But to see the changing of the guard and see the younger guys that they had. And I went back in the dressing room, and I went through, and there was still a ton of faces that I knew in that dressing room, or who knew who I was. And some knew who I was and I didn't know them, or vice versa. But, it was still the energy level, man. I went through there yelling and screaming, and I had people run out in the hall that had heard my voice and just didn't know whether I was back working or or somebody was outside perpetrating or whatever. But I couldn't control myself. You know what I mean? I kind of went at it. And a couple of guys came out, and, I think it was Duke Rufus and a couple of other guys, and they were like, holy SH, I didn't know what was going on, but I heard it. But, to see the level of competition, technical skills, how it's developed, I came in MMA when they were fighting like this. And they put their hands around you and they took you to the ground. Now, they're boxing. They know what they're doing, and they're skilled and they're technically sound, and that whole level has changed. And for the females, it's all kind of evolved into a real sport, a real international. But I saw the international and global thing happening when I was there. Because, there were times I'd go to sleep in Japan and wake up in Chicago, go to sleep in Chicago and wake up in Brazil, go to sleep in Brazil and didn't know where the heck I was the next day. But that's the development that was going on and was happening. And to see it now, I see Uriah Faber is talking about coming back. I see Anderson Silva in competitively, but it is hard to sustain. And anybody that's still around after 15 years sustaining at this high level, that has got to be a testament to the type of athlete that they were when they first came in. They are still putting it down, baby.
Well, let's give you a shout out for your longevity. You've been in combat sports for way longer than 15 years and doing it at a high level. So that high level will continue on this Saturday night for We Rollin' MMA.
June 15th, baby. MMA live. And you know what? I'm sitting down a little bit now that I've got it to a certain level. I'm sitting down a little bit. I'm looking up under the paper for another date. I'm looking for another date. See if I got another date on it. Because you know what, Anthony, I'm excited that now that the dust has cleared a little bit and it's settled down and things have fallen in place. Because I'll tell you, I'm doing my first interview with my hat on, so let you be the first one that I'll tell. I was a tad bit uneasy. Notice I didn't say nervous, because I'm never nervous.
I did peep that.
Shit. Some people, when the lights go on, they lights go out. It's all right to get dim, but not to go out. Well, them lights came on real bright, and I looked up a little bit, and I'm like, man, somebody got to turn that down a little bit. And nobody was in the room but me, bro. Nobody was in that room but me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta sweat this one too. But I'm excited, and as I said, it happened. It just happened to happen. And I'll tell you something, man. The respect that I've gotten, the well wishes that I've got from the different people that have read or heard about it, and to get a text or from Tito and Chael and Dan Hardy and I don't want to be throwing names out like I'm on TMZ or something. No, I mean it's kind of overwhelming, and you know what? It motivates you because these are people at a high level that are wishing you well, and saying, you know what? I know you got it. I know you got it. I know you got it. Can't give you a real shout out, but I know you got it. Everybody's got commitments everywhere. That hat you got on, does that say DE?
DC.
DC.
Yeah,
Okay.
DC. I'm from the DC area, so I got my Wizards cap on.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. All right. I ain't mad at you. I am not mad at
Yeah, I
you.
know you're a Philly guy. We've got some issues to handle off air, but
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
good. It's all good.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but you know what? You and I both got to get our teams together first of all. We start
Oh
back
man.
and back and forth. You know, it's I said to my son, my son is an avid New York Giants and the Knicks. He lives in close to New York. So you know what? It, which is worse that you have teams that don't make it, or you have teams good enough to make it that don't go any further. You know, and when it's playoff time, he and I both are sitting home looking at it on television. You know,
Hey,
but I love my
but
Phillies. I love my Philly sports, baby.
I got you, man, on that because as a DC sports fan, it's a long suffering endeavor right there, and the NFC East has been atrocious for a very long time now.
Very long time, for a very long time, and I do know it. But I've like you, I've seen it go up and down. And I'll tell you, I'm close enough. You know, I was with Theismann and Riggins, you know, and going back to Sonny Jurgensen. You probably don't even remember who that is.
I remember Sonny Jurgensen, not
Oh, okay.
personally, but I
Okay.
saw him on TV.
Yeah. Well, I just almost told you how old I am. But it's a good thing. But somehow, out of all that, my love has been combat sports, been boxing, been MMA, and it's still, even now I still do. But I'm still an independent contractor, and I still do things independently. I am now doing a series of fights with Triple G company in California. I did one last month. I've done 3 or 4 for them now. You know, when they have their fights, they have guys on their card who, when they're not fighting, they got to keep those guys busy. So they kind of called me in when they do their regional fights that I go in and put that stuff together. You know, and some of those guys are, some of them I know, and some of them know who I am. You know, but the first time we had I did an event, and I had the 2 dressing rooms really close to each other. One was on one level, and one was on the other. In the middle was the balcony. Oh Lord, that was a stage for me, bro. I gave them what they got for the first time. A wee roller, man. And the guys that I took out the first time, their eyes got big, and I could see the energy pumping through them. And the guy came back, and after the winner, they talk to you right away. The other guy, it takes a while to come back. The guy said, man, I never knew what that was like, but I do now. You know, they got that we rolling, baby. I gave it to them. You know.
All right. Well, this June 15th, there will be some young men, young ladies who are going to be hearing that we rolling and giving it their best effort in the cage. So Burt, please tell us how can we watch this event? Where can we find you on social media? Let us know the details, my man.
Well, right now, on social media, you can go to BurtWatsonPromotions.com. Any one of my social media tags, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we got our own website, Burt Watson Promotions. So you can go to any one of those, and it'll tell you exactly, give you a lineup, what's going on, and the weigh-in will be streamed live on Facebook. We got a digital magic research company that's doing our streaming live on Facebook of the weigh-in. The weigh-in is going to be Friday, June 14th at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, but it's going to be streamed live, so you'll get to see it again. And then event night, the event's also going to be streamed live, and we're working on some other outlets to have it streamed more than just Facebook. And I have a marketing team that's putting that all together. I don't want to say the wrong thing because that's not my world, but I do know that it's going to be streamed live, and I'm very happy about that. I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to doing it again, bro.
Well, Burt, thanks again for your time. Appreciate you taking the time out, and best of luck to you for a successful event on the 15th.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure, my man. And look, man, whenever you want to do this again, I'm ready to go for real. And for anybody that wants to keep up with me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Burt Watson, number 4 real, all night long.
And that's Burt Watson for real, without the hat, on Sherdog. Let's get this work.
Yes, sir.